Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Hello, everyone. Always such a joy to be here with you today. And again, welcome to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. And as you just heard, we're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, available on FM radio 105.3 and 107.7 FM. So I'm super excited. First of all, if you are watching us on any social media platform, please be sure and join the chat. We would love to hear from you, questions, comments, anything you have to say. We enjoy having you in our chat, so please be sure and do that. Also, subscribe to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled on YouTube. It's always a pleasure to have extra subs on there. We work very hard on that channel as well, and we appreciate all of your support. So today, tonight, wherever you're at, we're stepping beyond maps and monuments into the deeper question of why it is that certain places on Earth have always called to the human soul. Across cultures and centuries, people have returned to the same location again and again, not to just remember, but to feel, to awaken, to reconnect, and to reconnect with something vast and possibly ancient. These sacred sites seem to serve as anchors of the human consciousness, reminding us that awareness may not reside only within us, but also in relationship with the land itself. To guide us through this extraordinary terrain, I'm honored to welcome Dana Micucci. I hope I said her name right. She is an author, a traveler, and a witness to some of the most powerful sacred places on Earth, whose work invites us to listen to what the Earth has been telling humanity for all along. So with that said, welcome, Dana.
Thank you, Carol Ann. It's great to be back on your show.
Thank you. Always such a joy. Always such a joy. I love your work.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited. So for folks that don't know who you are, let's reiterate, and you can tell them about your journey and your books and all the good stuff.
Sure. Well, I'm an author, as you said, and a speaker, and I'm also a healing practitioner. And a lot of my work is founded in ancient mystery school wisdom, Carol Ann, and a lot of the commonalities of the world's wisdom traditions. So I began my journey, my career journey. It's much more than that. As we know, our work and life become one. When I was a young journalist in New York City. And I wrote for a lot of well-known publications, and I was in Manhattan for about 22 years. But as I was writing these articles, I realized, well, if I'm going to be a freelancer, I want to be as free as possible. So I would somehow, my soul would choose various places in the world that I wanted to visit. I wrote about culture, travel, art, and I would find the place first and then devise a story around it. And I remember camping out in my editor's offices saying, you have to send me to Bali, you have to send me to Angkor Wat in Cambodia and different places. And so I used journalism as a vehicle to allow me to travel to these sacred sites. And back then, you know, I was in my early 30s. I wasn't quite sure why I was being drawn to these various places, but I soon found out, and I couldn't get enough. It was like plugging your finger into a socket. Anybody who's traveled to these sites, whether it's the Great Pyramid in Egypt, Angkor Wat in Cambodia, Machu Picchu in Peru, there's so many on our planet. And it was like receiving a big activation, an energetic upgrade. I was receiving a lot of mystical revelations, insights into myself and my own soul's journey. And I kept growing, and we're all infinite works in progress, as we know, Carol Ann. So we're always growing and expanding, especially when we set the intention to do so. And so many of my journeys resulted in a book that came out in 2011, a while ago, called Sojourns of the Soul, One Woman's Journey Around the World and Into Her Truth, where I shared my personal journey at these sites and what was going on inside of me. And then fast forward, I continued to travel, and then I began to lead groups to these sacred sites for reasons of raising your frequency, accelerating your self-mastery, igniting healing on all levels, and also on sacred service missions to assist in the healing of our planet, our collective. And so I would receive these assignments from spirit, and I'd say, what, you want me to take a group to Egypt 3 times? And I just say, okay. I just listened. I didn't know why I was supposed to take these groups. And they really were missions from spirit. And in my journalism days, I would call them assignments, and I still do. They're spiritual assignments. So that all of those years of leading groups to sacred sites on these missions of healing and energetic activations in service to the self and the collective, I wound up writing about these in my latest book called The Years of Living Dangerously: Lessons from the Front Lines of a 21st Century Lightworker. And we talked about that the last time I was on your show. Yes. And so I basically, in that book, took Sojourns of the Soul to the next level, where I talked about all of the challenges, the trials, initiations, the tests that I faced while doing this work, in the public eye, and also all the miracles that came along with it. So in the meantime, I wrote a novel called The Third Muse, which is devoted to the high heart teachings of Mary Magdalene and the divine feminine wisdom of the Magdalene Order. And so, I continue to travel widely as an ambassador of the New Earth consciousness, as I say, like so many of us. And these sacred sites, they have an eternal allure. The power, the ancient esoteric wisdom that they hold that we can tap into, the high voltage light, which is information and energy. And we can receive many benefits by traveling there.
Why is it that you think, we have all these wonderful places full of mystery and mysticism. Why do you think the building of them kind of stopped? Like, why don't we have any in our recent history, so to say?
That is a great question. I feel that the ancients, right, who built a lot of these sites, so some are natural, but a lot of them are man-made, as you say. And the ancients were much more connected to the cosmos, to the energies of Mother Earth. They lived and breathed this eternal connection between heaven and earth. To them, the physical and metaphysical and the seen and the unseen realms were not separate like they are to the human mind today. So we could go all the way back to the Aborigines of Australia, who, but according to a lot of accounts, were considered the first peoples on our planet. And and there's so many different interpretations and different takes, but I'll give, my perceptions. And the Aborigines walked the song lines. We read there was the book called The Song Lines. For a while, this wisdom came into the popular imagination. And these song lines were energetic lines that we call ley lines that crisscross the earth and intersect at various powerful energetic centers. Whenever they intersect, a powerful energetic vortex is created. And these sacred sites, for example, again, the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, Machu Picchu in Peru, the great cathedrals of Europe, Angkor in Cambodia, Chichen Itza in the Maya lands, the Pyramid Chichen Itza. They're all built at the intersection of these electromagnetic ley lines. Some are more electric, meaning that they emit energy. Some are more magnetic, meaning they absorb energy. And this goes all the way back, Carol Ann, to ancient Atlantis. That's where ley lines, we became aware of ley lines, and the Atlanteans used them as energy highways. They used them to build this elaborate system of subterranean tunnels that they would use for communication and transport. And they called them energy highways. The Native Americans, as who we know have been around for millennia, called this network of leys, of the energetic lines, which we could correlate to the human acupuncture system, the meridians. and the chakras, right, where the meridians cross. And the Native Americans called them the web of the Spider Woman or the spirit path. The Aborigines, as I mentioned, called them the song lines. So because the ancients were so attuned to this, our connection to both the cosmos and the energies of Mother Earth, that is why so many of them were built back then, and less so today, because we've become separated a lot from that ancient wisdom, with our modern preoccupations and just technology taking over. And so I think that's the reason.
Yeah, I agree with Heidi. It's so intriguing, the ley lines or dragon lines.
Yes.
They truly are. And it kind of makes me feel beat that the ancients were, like you said, so in touch with
Yes.
Mother Earth and astronomy and the whole thing. And like, there's a lot of enlightened people on the planet today and for the past few hundred years. So,
Right.
like, what, it almost makes me wonder if aliens really didn't have something to do with these sacred sites. It really kind of points to maybe they did come and teach the people
Yes.
of the time how to build these things. Because what's the name of that? I think it's in India, where it's a cathedral and it's carved out of stone underground.
I
What
can't
is that
recall
one
the name right
called?
now. I was in India twice, but I can't recall
Oh, it's
the name
so
of it. Built underground.
It's
Mm.
like it was, instead of excavating and like dumping the dirt out, there's no dirt to be found anywhere near the
Ah,
site. And it's like below ground. It almost seems impossible. And the intricacy of it, I'm like
yeah.
ashamed I can't remember the name of it. Um, the intricacy of the design
Mhm.
seems well beyond what
Ah,
even today what we could build. Do you
that is
think there's a connection?
absolutely, and you raise such a great point. As the intricacy of so many of these sites, for example, I mentioned the great cathedrals of Europe. Well, I was in Wells, which is a gorgeous old town in England, where they
Mm.
have the most magnificent cathedral, which we were told, by the local guides that, oh, the monks chiseled this. And I thought, there's no way, even back then, that the human hand could do this. And then you look at the Great Pyramid of Giza, those massive limestone blocks. I
Yeah.
mean, they didn't, how did they have the engineering feats that we have today? There's so many theories
Exactly.
that they were levitated, they were moved by sound, and with assistance from the Syrians and other star beings. So absolutely, I do feel that our star families were involved in the building of a lot of these sites, and the ancients had connections with them. So if you go, for example, into the Temple of Abydos in Egypt, which is dedicated to Osiris, this is the Temple of Seti the First, and it's an extremely otherworldly, mystical place. So I've taken groups there. I've been there a number of times myself, and the carvings are exquisite, and they're still very well preserved. There is a spaceship carved in one of the lintels. It is clearly a spaceship, right? And we've seen, and uh, archaeologists and others who are free thinkers, let's say, not part of the traditional canon, have shown us a lot of these carvings and even ancient petroglyphs.
Yes.
I was in the outback looking at the Aboriginal petroglyphs, the paintings on the rocks, the cave paintings. There were
Yeah.
beings that did not look earthly. They were called Mimi spirits,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And we could even see that in Native American petroglyphs. So I do believe, yes, that contact was made. And perhaps, we don't know for sure, but perhaps for the ancients, it was much more of a normal thing than
Yeah.
we might consider today, you know?
Absolutely. If you don't mind, this is it. I found it. It's in
Mm.
Ethiopia, and it's
Oh,
called Lila Bella's.
okay.
It's a church, and you see how it was
Yes.
built. Like, and there's really no dirt around it, and it just is mystifying to me how
Wow.
they could build something like that. Like, that would be a place that I would absolutely
Wow.
love to go and witness some of these cathedrals. Are
Yes.
just
Oh,
mind blowing.
mind blowing. Notre Dame. I mean, so many of these cathedrals, were, of course, monuments to spirit. A lot of them also built at the intersection of electromagnetic ley lines, which imbue them with great power. So the ancients knew that. And then, of course, so many of these sites were co-opted by the church.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And then we have the Michael and Mary ley lines, which people probably have heard about, those listening to this show, that go through southern England. And the Apollo and Athena ley line that also intersect with St. Michael's Mount, the Michael ley line, and goes all the way into Europe through France, Mont Saint-Michel, to Italy, Pisa, Siena, and many other places I'm not mentioning, Athens, Delphi, very interestingly.
Yeah.
And where does this Apollo and Athena line end? In Mount Carmel, in the Holy Land, which was, as you may know, a stronghold of the Essene community in ancient Palestine, the desert mystics who nurtured Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. So I find it so fascinating. And so much of it is, there are some what may be called rogue archaeologists, although I feel that these are the ones devoted to the truth, they're making incredible discoveries. Oftentimes these discoveries are shut down. I don't know if you remember last year, it was revealed that there were these structures uncovered underneath the Great Pyramid. And it was on the internet, on social media, and they looked like big columns, right, with coils. And I thought, oh my gosh, it looks like a battery. And the first thing that came to me was, this has to be Atlantean technology.
Yeah.
And
sounds like it.
That's supposedly one line of thought, which I feel aligned with, is that when Atlantis collapsed, a number of Atlanteans who were able to escape came to Egypt with Master Thoth to anchor a whole new paradigm at the time of Zep Tepi, which means 0 point. It's a consciousness reset that happened in that interim between the destruction of Atlantis and the flowering of the great civilization of Egypt. And I feel, Carol Ann, that we are in another Zep Tepi, a reset of human consciousness right now.
Oh, I agree. I love that word. That is such a fun thing to learn, Zep Tepi. Cool.
Yes.
And I agree. I think we are definitely in a reset era, so to say.
Yeah.
And I feel blessed to be a part of it. I want to ask you, we've been talking so much about consciousness.
Right.
It seems to be like the hot topic out there. Like everybody wants to talk about it. There's a lot of new information due to technology like fMRI machines and brain scanning, all that stuff. And they're saying now, and I fully believe this because I feel it too to my core, that consciousness does not reside within us, but rather it's external to us, and we are all a part of it. It connects to all things living on the planet. Do you feel that way? What's your opinion about consciousness itself?
Yes, that's a profound question. And it does feel to me that we are all part of a vast multidimensional energy system that is both within and outside of us. For me, it's always both. And this energy system extends way out into the cosmos, right? And so it's almost like this massive universal kind of acupuncture meridian and points mirroring the human body. And as we know, the ancients were so attuned to the axiom as above, so below. As I mentioned earlier, the unseen and seen worlds were intimately connected to them, the cosmos, the heavens and earth. And so, yes, I do feel that is like it's a grid. I see it as a grid of consciousness that connects all of us. And some from the Vedic tradition would call it Indra's net. And then we have the internet and how technology has also explored this and mirrored it. And so in the ancient days, let's say there was Lemuria and there were civilizations before Atlantis, but there are, Atlantis, even though it was very old, is closer in time. And there were some great lessons of Atlantis that we're now learning again. And we have kind of replicated Atlantis, although we want to move beyond the destruction and what happened with the worship of power over love and service to self over service to others, which we see playing out in our world. However, I think there are enough open-hearted, aware humans who are awakening to this, and we're not going to become a victim of that like we were in Atlantis, which led to their self-destruction. So this system of ley lines actually extended way beyond the Earth into the greater universe. And I feel that those ley lines are connected to what you're talking about, this consciousness grid.
Yeah.
And so we have only remnants of the energy highways, the leys that existed way back in Atlantis and before, I'm sure. And that's because we were intentionally disconnected from them after the fall. The fall could be considered the destruction of Atlantis, right? And what was then the major, so of course, then there are theories that, Lemuria and Atlantis went to war, and then Lemuria also sank in a cataclysm. So that it was determined by the higher councils of light that we humans were not ready to really use this for the highest good, this system of lays. So we were disconnected from it. There are only remnants that exist, but the energy current that moves through these lines is still there. And a lot of these, for example, the great stone circles of Europe were preserved by the Druids, those who were escapees from, Atlantis in the final days. And they hid out in the monasteries of Europe, and especially France and England. They were extremely skilled alchemists and had preserved this ancient wisdom and helped to build the stone circles in alignment with the lays. And it is said that they used anti-gravity as well as sound to erect those stones.
I've heard that. I've even heard that sound was used to construct the pyramids as well.
Right.
The vibration actually softened the clay or the rock, and then they were able to mold it. There's so many theories out there. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Atlantis, though. Is the only proof that we have that it existed is through because I think I remember reading through the works of Plato?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Through Plato, but also Edgar Cayce, the great
Edgar Cayce,
clairvoyant of the early 20th century mystic, some call him a prophet, who tuned in to so much about ancient Atlantis, as did Plato wrote about it too, much earlier. So, and then we have our own soul memories, where if we really tune in and really continue to refine and sustain our connection to God consciousness through our own I am presence, our own immortal God spark within us, we can connect to those memories. We can receive information, which is instructive for us today, to help us live our lives more fully and at a higher frequency as we expand in consciousness.
Yeah. And it's not easy for humans. Everyone knows that we're spiritual beings in a human form, living a spiritual existence.
Right.
But yet we still, first and foremost, are here as human beings.
Yes.
And it's not an easy path to walk. And once you begin to awaken and your perceptions change about the way we've been told that the world is, you see nothing the same again. Do you think in your travels that was part of your awakening? Did that awaken something in you that just prevented you from seeing the world in the way we've been taught through history?
Oh, absolutely, Carol Ann. Thank you for asking. Yes, I feel that it just blew my consciousness wide open, connecting with the energies. It's so much of it is beyond the mind, just being in those energy fields, which are so transporting, which, as I say, the ancients knew that they could go to these sacred sites. They could walk the lays and receive healings, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual healings. Sometimes they went there to give birth or to conceive.
Wow.
And also, when we travel to these sites, like I said, something opens up within us and we receive information from spirit that we might not have received before. We have these mystical insights and aha moments of the truth, what is the real truth. And this goes way beyond the mind, which can get in the way, although the mind is a very powerful tool, of course. And what else? The energetic upgrades, like I said, some theorize that this geometric proportions of the sacred sites, of the architecture itself, including crop circles, which, speaking of our star family.
Ask you. I literally was just going to ask you about that, because I was going to take back what I said, that we don't have anything as miraculous, and we do. We have crop circles. Tell us your thoughts on them.
Circles. Yes. So getting back, so the crop circles, and let's say the pyramids, any sacred site, the cathedrals, whatever sacred site it is, Machu Picchu, which was an Inca, supposedly history says an Inca fortress, but I do feel that it was a mystery school for women, for women healers and seers. And that's my take, because I was there twice. However, everyone know that whatever we're told by the mainstream, there's that much more beyond what we're told. So there's always more behind the scenes. So the crop circles, the sacred sites, have a certain geometric configuration. And our star, I feel, I was in the crop circles in England, that I do agree, like some say, and others discount it. They're always both sides. I do agree that they were made by our star families with such precision. My goodness.
I agree.
And the highest frequency. So it has been said that when you lie in a crop circle, or let's say when you go into a pyramid, that your DNA is changed, because DNA is a geometry, and geometry holds information. So the sacred sites are built, as well as the crop circles, according to certain harmonics, geometric harmonics. And then we interact with them, and the geometry of our DNA interacts, and information is exchanged. And so it can also be said that we receive DNA upgrades. Now, has that been proven? Not to my knowledge, measuring a DNA upgrade, but it seems to make sense. And those who have studied, even researchers who have studied sacred sites, will say this. So, I mean, you can feel the energy, lying down in that crop circle. It's like this force field of energy.
I've heard. Hi, Carrie.
I'm
just saying hello to people.
You realign. It's like all of your chakras, your energy centers, seals, gates, they're different words for the chakras and different traditions. They realign. You become instantly rebalanced. The healings take place, and the word healing means to come back into balance. And so there are so many, quote, unexplained phenomena when people do travel to these sites. And if you talk to people, whether it's a crop circle or a sacred architectural site or a natural formation or a stone circle, whatever it is, if you talk to people, they'll say they felt an incredible sense of well-being, of like what you said at the introduction, of being connected to something bigger than themselves, of like reconnecting with their own God presence and with spirit God, with the infinite I am. So the ancients, they knew a lot, and they could feel these dragon energies, because the energy along the ley lines comes out in like a sinusoidal curve. And thus the word dragon, it's serpentine, the way the energy moves. That's been measured. So that's one of the reasons they're called dragon lines. And so, yes, it's fascinating.
And it's so interesting how like quantum mechanics, quantum physics is now kind of catching up with a lot of these ancient lessons and ways, the ways of the ancient. Like through the observer observations, that as soon as you observe something, it changes the outcome, and
Right.
particles and waves. And it's like, it's
Right.
almost like for the first time, emerging between science and spirituality is happening. Do you see that?
Oh, for sure. And I feel that, quantum physics is so complex and beyond me, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
fascinated by quantum physics and the entanglement theory and the butterfly effect and the complexity theory. We
Yeah.
see all of that playing out in our lives. And so, yes, I think they're what the ancient mystics always knew, science is confirming, like
Absolutely.
one thought in this portion of the universe affects something else,
Yeah, the butterfly effect.
in some
Absolutely.
other place, like beyond space and time. The quantum realm exists beyond space and time. So we're not
Multi-dimension.
confined by those
I believe
limitations.
yeah, absolutely. I believe we live in a multi-dimensional universe as
Mhm.
well. And it was so interesting. Yesterday, my guest said something so profound. He said that everything is not the way it seems, and it all depends, obviously, on your choices. And that one choice that you make changes the dimension in which you're headed. Like, you have opportunity that exists in every dimension. And it's that one choice you make that changes
Right.
everything. And I really believe that to be true.
Oh, yes, that makes so much sense.
Now,
Yes.
you've been gifted as a person who can travel to these places. And I would think that statistically, it's not a big majority of folks that get to live the life that you've lived and travel to these magical places that you've been to. Um, what do we do, the folks that don't get that opportunity to go there? Some people say you can remote view into
Yes.
them. Tell us about
Yes.
what can we do?
You absolutely can remote view into them. You can take a shamanic journey to these sites. And a lot of my work, I also, as a healing practitioner, do shamanic soul retrievals with people where I'm traveling through non-ordinary reality. And so are they at the same time. And people have
Mm,
reported that, the healing or the information they receive is just as powerful in the quantum field as it is in person. There's something very seductive about being there in person. Yes, for sure. But because our minds are so powerful that we can travel to these sites in meditation, most important thing is to set the intention. What would
yeah.
you like to receive? Be an active participant in the outcome that you want to create. What would you like to receive at this site? What perhaps you'd like to meet some higher beings of light, or maybe someone from your star families. Perhaps you want to go into the resurrection chamber of the Great Pyramid, where I've taken people in online events to these sacred sites. In fact, to assist those, Carol Ann, and you raised such a great question, who may not have the chance to go in the physical, I created a whole online program called Sacred Site Journeys of Light, where I lead
Mhm.
people through these audios to these sacred sites with the meditations, the activations, and the teachings and practices. So it's as
Ooh.
if they're there in person. And that's why I created that program, to make these sites accessible to everybody.
Now, this is via your website, folks.
Yes,
But
people
we'll walk through
can.
that. We'll walk through that,
Yeah,
so we could show folks. I would love to do
right.
something myself. Miss
Hmm.
Shelley had an interesting comment. She said, here in Australia, they're getting people to sing to the ley lines to put that love energy back into them. Interesting. Aboriginals call them singing line songs lines, right?
Yes.
So, how do you think that that's part of this global awakening that we're having, that people are now realizing the power that they innately have, that they can do such things?
Yes, Carol Ann. I think I'm so glad that she shared that information. I wasn't aware of that they were doing that in Australia. And so we are powerful beyond measure. It's all about reclaiming that divine power, refining our connection to spirit God.
Yeah.
And we can create outcomes and affect change by doing something just like that, which is very
How
powerful.
absolutely. How has each, I mean,
Mm.
this might be a difficult question to
Mhm.
answer because I'm sure it's very complex, but
Yes.
every place that you
Mhm.
visited, if you could
Mhm.
summarize how each place changed you, what would that look like?
Mm. Wow. Yes. Some of that's hard to put into words, but what I can put into words is that I feel that it opened me. It opened my
Mm,
heart, my mind, to put it in more practical terms, helped me release judgments, feelings of separation from
mm,
others, from spirit God, myself. It really collapsed that. It gave these many of these travels in my connection with the sites, and again, people can do this in the quantum realm, really gave me this lived, felt, divinely embodied, beyond my mind experience of oneness. You know, we hear this all the time, that we are all one. It's become a cliche, but really when you're there and you go, this is really important. I found this when you go in a very receptive state, you remove your mind from this, other than setting your intention, but you're not trying to make something happen. You're going to be pure of heart, free of distractions, in what I call a state of crystalline neutrality. So you're
mm.
also not affected by your emotions. You're going to do a meditation or whatever it takes to still that pendulum swing of emotion, which brings you into state of crystalline neutrality, really the detachment that the Buddhists talk about, which does not mean that you are negating life. In fact, you are sinking more deeply into it. And so when you approach a sacred site, however you do it in meditation or in the physical, this is the state that you want to be in. Your heart wants to be open and pure. And then you become a pure and clear vessel to receive all the energy and light, which is information, available to you. Uh, and so those are some of the ways in which I feel I changed, where
Mm,
I also feel like they helped me to become more accepting, more tolerant, more,
yeah.
you know, just open to so many diverse points of view, and also brought me deeper into my joy, which is wired into all of us. This lightness of heart. I've often felt this lightness of heart where you don't have a care in the world, right? We're always bogged down by our worries, our concerns, and our tasks just to get through the day, right? Our deadlines, our appointments. So this takes you out of that daily routine and into a very magical place where you feel childlike. You step out of your own way. That's
Oh,
another
I like
thing.
that.
It helps you step out of your own way into the eternal, timeless energy of the universe, which is much more accessible in a way at these sacred. It's accessible all the time in our daily lives too. But because you're in a new place and you're experiencing something new, you let your guard down. You are more naturally open to receive. Uh, and stepping in to that state of divine flow and joy. What happens, and people know this in their own lives, you can get there in meditation, through prayer, visualization, whatever spiritual tools you have, you can get there now, today, in your daily life. It's just sacred sites tend to accelerate that process. That's all.
Oh, yeah, I
And
love that. I
yes.
love that. So we most of us realize now that time itself is a construct. It's a human-made
Mhm.
construct. And how has visiting these sacred places changed your, because you went back to places thousands of years old.
Mhm.
So when
Yeah.
you were in them, what did time itself feel like to you?
Mm. You know, it felt as if time didn't exist. I
Mm,
I have this word called interdimensional bleed throughs, where you feel like you're walking between worlds, that your consciousness is in all these timelines all at the same time, where
Oh,
you
wow.
really kind of realign with your multidimensional presence, which we all have. And that's such a great question, because I've also noticed, Carol Ann, that I'm much more present at the sites.
Yes.
Present. And when you are present, this is my experience. It's not from what I studied or whatever, my personal experience. I'm more in my heart center. I'm more grounded in my body. I feel more connected to my joy. I feel more balanced and aligned. When you're present, you have stepped out of time and space, into that eternal now that Ram Dass talked about, and other mystics. And being in that eternal now, the veils disappear, and you have access and become everything everywhere. Now that's whoa, pretty cosmic, but yeah, though you can have the sensation of that, almost like you're slipping between timelines, especially very powerful sites like Egypt as a whole, and the ancient wisdom and light there, that I feel that certain places like Egypt and the temples of light and transformation there are the assemblage points, I call it, of our reality, of what we perceive as reality, are very loose, very fluid.
Yeah.
So you could have glimpses of like, oh my gosh, I was in this temple. I was, an attendant in this temple, or I was a scribe, or I remember being here.
Yeah. It's all about remembering, right?
Remembering.
We've been snatched of remembering so much of our past lives. So when you visit a sacred place like that, I would imagine that you can indeed have recalls of past existences, right? Have you, what has that been like for you? Like,
oh, for sure. I mean, well, I'll use Egypt again because that was so profound. And when now I've been to Egypt, I think it's about 5 times now. When I first went, it was and remember, as a journalist, I mean, that I made it part of my work. So yes, I realized that I was fortunate that I had a job where I could do this, but that's why I would choose to go to these sites where it was my soul calling me. I didn't know why, but in Egypt, I stepped out. Yes, and I stepped out onto the terrace of my hotel room overlooking the Nile, and I just had this huge sense of familiarity. Like, wow. And every time I go to Egypt, it's like a second home to me. And I feel like I'm living there right now. The same time I'm sitting here in my office talking to you. Or the same thing with the Holy Land, because I have a really deep connection with the Essene brotherhood and sisterhood of light from the Holy Land. And wow, when I went there, the veils of time were non-existent. I went years ago, like, where there wasn't as much chaos in that region, and so many what we would call miracles, occurred.
Yeah.
Where you feel the hand of spirit reaching down into your life and speaking to you through these signs, massive synchronicities, but even precipitations of objects out of nowhere. So
now, didn't you have a travel between our last conversation and now? Didn't you go somewhere recently? I thought you did. I thought you traveled somewhere.
I went to New York City, which, by the way, New York City is a huge vortex of light. I feel that it's one of the new Earth hubs, and perhaps where you are too. Like, I know Australia is for sure, and Sydney, and I'm getting a little tingle as I say that. I have a very good friend in Sydney, and we've been friends for years. But New York City, wow. I mean, think of why are so many people attracted to New York City, which many people say, I could never live there. It's so chaotic. And it's true. The static interference, all the distractions, all of this. But New York City is built on a bed of granite.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, about Manhattan and in the other boroughs, a bed of granite. And what happens to granite after years and years of pressure in the earth? It becomes a diamond. It becomes diamond-like. It's or quartz-like. And so that bed of granite with its diamond-like properties is attracting all this energy, all these people with all these talents, and also emitting light. So I do feel that New York has been and will be even more a new earth light hub. And your small town, wherever you live, may also be this. It doesn't have to be a big metropolis or a famous ancient civilization.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Carrie just said remote viewing and projecting into these realms. We have two guests on
Mm,
regularly. They're also hosts on this network. Preston Dennett, who's a ufologist, very well known, and Dolly Saffron, who's a
mm,
contactee. And they just
wow.
taught us how to use remote viewing so that we could try to access these sites. We just
Ah,
literally had that. Yeah. It was
wow.
great.
That's a huge synchronicity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Mish wants to know anything with the Grand Canyon.
Yes, thank you. The Grand Canyon, I feel, is a huge. Now, remember, they're not all man-made. There are a lot of natural sites, and there have been a lot of explorations over the years. And it is said that the Egyptians were in the Grand Canyon. They found some Egyptian artifacts, some whatever writings that resembled hieroglyphics, and these ancient peoples traveled far and wide. How did they do that? In spaceships? Perhaps they bilocated. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
That they were
yeah.
so advanced, they moved into their energy bodies and bilocated. So there are a lot, they have found, and this is kind of hidden by the mainstream media, but a lot of artifacts, Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon. And that is
Crazy.
also a huge vortex of light. Now, I don't know if anyone has been to, I'm trying to remember the name, Havasupai Falls. Oh my goodness. Wow. That to me was like a holographic insert of the Garden of Eden, of perhaps what ancient Lemuria must have been in its time. It
Wow.
felt like a primeval paradise. And it has all these waterfalls, these turquoise waterfalls, massive, you know, just flowing down into these streams inside the Grand Canyon on the Havasupai Native American reservation, and it's not easy to get to. You have to drive a long way, helicopter in. But if anyone
Oh,
ever has a chance, try to get to Havasupai Falls, and
wow. So
you
you
will.
had to you had to helicopter in and do all that stuff?
Yes, but they
Wow.
have, helicopters will take more than just you. It's not a private thing. I mean, but you could get a couple people on it, and some people can walk down into the canyon. It's at the far end of the. It's not a well known. Well, to some people it might be, but it's not so well known. Let's just say, and I felt so incredibly an incredible sense of well being after spending like 4 days there. And
Wow.
I feel that this was this deep connection with the elemental energies of Mother Earth at the same time, no veils to the starry realms, to the cosmos.
Oh, I can imagine.
There's so many messages coming from the
Yeah.
star beams. So, yes, I think the Grand Canyon is a hugely powerful sacred site.
What about the Antarctic? Have you ever been compelled to want to visit there? I mean, so much of it is hidden from us and
Right.
secret through NASA. What's your take on the Antarctic as a whole?
Yes, Antarctica. Now the Arctic Circle is in the
Yeah,
news a lot, right?
yeah.
It has been secretive. It has been hidden. I personally have not had a desire to go to the Arctic or Antarctica, but probably because I don't like to be that cold.
Yeah.
And but I do feel that they are portals to other dimensions, and they're aside from whatever other ops are going on there, which we won't get into. But in terms of how they can be used for the good, is I feel that they are very powerful portals to higher dimensions, to other star systems. Um,
Yeah.
I feel that there are ships that are constantly coming in and out of these portals. I mean, way back, we have it documented that Admiral Byrd went
Yeah.
into a hole at the top of our planet, which is the Arctic Circle, and discovered the inner Earth peoples of the Agartha network through this entryway. and that is documented. So so much beyond what meets the eye going on in those areas, you know.
What about Stonehenge? Have you been? I'm sure you have, right? What's that
Stonehenge
been like?
is incredible, very powerful. I was there twice, and I'll tell you about an experience I had. Now, it's said that 14 ley lines, I mean, the exact number, who knows, but 14 is a lot, crisscross through Stonehenge, which is also connected to the main axis ley line in England, the Michael line. The Michael and Mary lines are both, I don't want to, you know, they're both kind of intertwined and interconnected, but also on the Michael ley line is the Great Stone Circle of Avebury. These were Neolithic constructions. And Glastonbury, the center of ancient Avalon, a Glastonbury tour, and talk about where the veils were non-existent in ancient Avalon, and then Cadbury, which was the seat of Camelot, Cadbury Castle, which I thought was fascinating that King Arthur would choose, of course he would, and his round table, choose to be on the Michael ley line. So Stonehenge is extremely powerful, and you do feel like you step into another dimension there, you know, because we're in modern times. You know, some of that ancient feel is lost because there are highways around Stonehenge.
Yeah,
so you're standing there in a stone circle and you see all these cars going by, but you still can tune in and really transport yourself through the stone circle into the cosmos, or deep into to Mother Earth, into the inner Earth network. And what I found fascinating, the energy is so heightened. Like, at a lot of these sites, you feel this force field, like you're walking into a force field that kind of pushes back at you in a way. And what I noticed, Carol Ann, was astounding, that when I was in the energy of Stonehenge and inside the circle and around the circle, because we did some meditations there, and I took a group to England and to the sacred sites there in Avalon in 2023. And I didn't experience this the first time I was there, because it's changed. They have all these other things that they added, I guess, to make it easier for tourists. And for some reason, on that day, I could not hear the traffic. I could not hear any of the cars right in that vicinity of the stone circle. It was like they were invisible and they were just going back and forth. No sound. And then,
like a force field, maybe around.
Yeah. And then you get onto the bus and leave Stonehenge, and there's, the blaring sounds of horns and the motors and the traffic. It was like coming from one dimension into another. It was really fascinating. And that happened to me again. That happened to me actually else in Mount Carmel in the Holy Land, which Mount Carmel is now present day Haifa, but sitting on a bench overlooking the Mediterranean, tuning in with the Essene settlement at Mount Carmel, where you can see the archaeological remains. There was a harmonica player right not far from me on the other bench. I went into meditation and couldn't even hear the harmonica.
Wow. That's incredible.
And then when I came out of the meditation back more into the 3D realm, I heard it again.
How do you deal with, because as we all know, and I often ask my guests this because I think it's an important question for those of us that are dealing with this struggle of light and dark. We all know that yin and yang, and as above, so below, that whole thing. So we all know that there is this battle or heavenly worlds where there is light and not light. So how do you deal? Did you ever go to a site and feel the presence of darkness and just were told intuitively, this place is not good for me, maybe I should go somewhere else? Or how did you deal with that aspect of it?
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up, because I write about this very topic in my new book, The Years of Living Dangerously, about the light and the anti-light, and I call them the
Yeah,
anti-forces. The Bible calls the dark forces principalities. I mean, they've been around forever. We live on the duality plane. So where there is light, there is the opposite. Where there is, we have hot and cold,
absolutely.
male and female. And so, yes, and that's a very important, because sometimes you can feel compromised energies at these sites, because wherever there's so much light, you can be sure the opposite's going to be attracted to it.
Absolutely.
So want to take precautions in the sense of whatever spiritual hygiene you practice. Maybe you simply call on the legions of angels for protection, or
Yes.
I like to use the golden ray of Christ light, where I will infuse and encompass myself with the golden ray of Christ light in like a golden shield, a sphere,
I
a
do
golden
that too.
sphere, right? And the
Absolutely.
word shield I don't like so much, because I want to allow the good in, but just keep the opposite out.
Exactly.
And it's still, because we live on this duality plane, and we're still heavily immersed in the epic battle between light and dark, which we see playing out all the time in our 3D world, and also beyond in the galactic realm, which also affects us, until we are liberated from this battle, which is coming. We're going to
Oh,
be liberated from this epic battle. We're closer than ever. But in the meantime, we have to take these necessary precautions. So one place where, and now Egypt is tricky, because if you go into the tombs, right, you're going in down these stairways into these
sure.
very dark places, to the funereal energies. So especially going into tombs and burial sites, because there are all kinds of disincarnate spirits hanging around there. And,
Mm.
you just simply want to encompass and infuse yourself with light, and make a decree, that, I am
Yeah.
hereby protected from any dense, heavy, dark, unwanted energies, whatever you want to say. And do that, especially these. I don't like to go to tombs and burial sites. I mean, I did go into the famous ones in the Valley of the Kings, just because they're so well known in King Tut's site. But we've heard about what happened with the people involved in the King Tut excavation in the 1920s.
Yeah. And
It's
don't
a,
forget, there was a lot
yeah,
of human sacrifice too that took place in a lot of these.
yeah,
So you definitely need to ground and, bubble up, as Heidi says. Ground and bubble up. Yeah, you got to
yeah.
protect yourself.
Very good point. Very good point. And I did feel those darker energies at the Mayan site of Tikal in Guatemala, for sure. And there was a place called the Lost World, which I thought
Mm,
was an interesting
goodness.
part of the site, which in and of itself was not dark. But, you get into the jungle pathways and whatever, and it's just, there can be some really compromised energies. And also, like you say, the sacrifices that occurred. I mean, a lot of that trauma is still hanging around. And
Yeah.
so, you
Yeah.
know,
And as Carrie said, there's mold and bacteria hanging around, so you really
yes.
need to but you're such a professional seasoned traveler that I'm sure you know all the do's and don'ts of how to protect yourself.
Well, that is, I don't think anyone's asked me that question, and that is critical that you brought it up. Thank you. So, yes, just be conscious,
Yes.
of the fact that this exists. And, anyone listening to your show is a light worker, is a being of light,
Yeah,
devoted to the light.
absolutely.
You're going automatically to have natural protection from God, spirit, your angels, your guides, all of it, the ascended masters. But at the same time, just take those steps. Use a sacred geometric configuration, which I like to use. It could be an icosahedron, it could be a tetrahedron. I like to use a sphere. Even when I do my events, Carol Ann, I will put up in my mind's eye an icosahedron shield of light around the meeting room,
Yeah,
around the structure, and I just command that anything not of the light leaves. And
absolutely.
anyone entering, also make the decree that when you enter this site, wherever it is, that you're going to receive the optimal influx of light and love and all the energy that you are desiring
Yeah.
for healing. So make your
You know,
decree.
It's so funny when I think back to like the 80s and 90s. I remember when pyramid power was a big thing and they were selling these pyramids that you could wear
Right.
on your head.
Oh, yeah.
And my husband, God rest his soul, he
Yeah.
put up with me walking around the house with a pyramid hat, and I would go, I'm grounding myself. Don't,
Yeah.
but it's so funny how when you think back, they were spot on with so much of this.
Yes. Oh, yes. And the pyramids, I mean, they are stairways to heaven. They're transmitters and
Yeah,
receivers of cosmic and earthly light, which is information.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so are we. Like,
Yeah.
why do people meditate in a cross-legged position? Because we
Yeah.
become the pyramid.
Exactly. Now I want to ask you, Dana, do you still do shadow work every day or whenever you feel compelled to? And B, how do you tackle um human emotions like anger, rage, self-pity, all the bad stuff?
The
How
bad.
do you still deal with that? And
Well,
if so, how?
I think, we're all human, and sometimes,
Yeah.
these emotions will come up. And so the key is, whatever emotion it is, the key is to notice it in the moment, to take
Yes.
the information, the instructive information it brings without self-judgment, no whip to the back, and then just let it flow through you. Allow it to flow through you. You do not want to attach to these emotions. And so the more and more you do this, the more you recognize, like, you could even just be thrown off just a tiny bit. I talk about, we want to keep the pendulum swing of emotion at a complete stop. Now, that's what the ascended masters did. So because we're not quite there yet, I do say we're all ascended, those of us on the path of light, ascended masters in the making. We may have done so much work on ourselves that we don't have these huge swings, but we might have this, this wobble.
Exactly.
So we want, as soon as we have a tiny waver or wobble, we just notice it, bring our attention back to our heart center. I see and feel the emerald light at my heart center, and it begins to encompass me. And then I simply, would make an I am decree, something like, I am always one with the heart and mind of God. I
Yeah.
am the mighty.
Yeah.
I am a light of God. All of that. I am
Exactly.
presence, be present now, dispels whatever discord there is. It could be, mental or emotional discord, because really, Carol Ann, the reason that we may as humans get thrown off is because it starts in the mind. The mind agitates the heart and causes
Yes.
a
Gosh, yes.
destabilizing emotion. So use the golden Christ light, which I will use to, like, zap out an undesirable thought form. And instantly. Just do it in the moment.
I love that. And oftentimes it's other people, people around us that create, we allow them to
Right.
create this havoc and bring up these feelings that,
Right.
we, like you said, have to recognize and then just dispel them. And one of the reasons I loved Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, I read decades ago, is because it really teaches us how to live in this now moment. And
Right.
when you do a simple mantra, like when I get stressed out or anxious, I always say, everything is fine in this now moment. The universe always works in my favor. And that rescues me. I can't tell you how many times that rescues me.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
That's so true. It's just a matter of catching yourself and coming back to
Yes.
center, which is at the heart. It's all about, where is your attention? It's that simple, yet that profound. Where's your attention? So your mantra, which is great, is just brings your attention back to the
It really
present
does.
when you're in
Yeah.
your heart and in your body. And so it just, all the wisdom traditions of the world have meditations to quiet those raging thoughts. The Buddhists call the monkey mind,
The monkey mind, yes.
the monkey
The
mind.
lizard brain. Yeah, the lizard brain, the whole, and as humans, we need to have self-love and self-care and self-forgiveness and all that good stuff.
Yes.
And let us acknowledge that we're humans, we slip up, we make mistakes, we
Right.
unfortunately still experience anxiety and all the earthly things. But like you said, it's the pendulum's not swinging like this, it's swinging. And I love that, Dana. I love
Yeah.
that analogy. Do
Yes,
you
even the
do you
tiniest.
yes.
As soon as that pendulum becomes still over time, we move into our light bodies. Then we get, achieve the victory of the ascension. We become ascended masters. And so this is the final work on the path. And it's a matter of practice,
Yes, big time.
noticing, observing, and practicing.
Do you think from now moving forward that your travels, because I'm sure you will have them in scheduled tours and things,
Yes.
do you think that they continue these travels that you have to these sacred places still continue to change you so you go through like a metamorphosis every time you visit them, you learn something new, they speak to you differently? Is that why you're still compelled, Dana, to do these travels?
Yes, I think that's a fair assessment, Caroline. Yes, I do find that I change, and a lot of it has to do with the people who are there because I'm
Ah,
traveling now leading groups to these sites, and that's a different role. That's a leadership role, and so you have
yes.
different challenges and tests and learnings and all of that. And so, yes, every time I go, I can see the benefits and how I've grown, maybe because I've learned something new about myself, or I've noticed something, or I've been tested to step into a whole new level of
Mm.
alignment and mastery, which is ongoing. It just never ends. Even the ascended masters are still growing. And so I also continue to do these journeys because I feel that it provides a community for like-minded and like-hearted people. It's a very necessary community in our
Yes,
time, and
yes.
also in planetary service, because as we know, the great mystic Master Jesus, Yeshua, Isa
Yep.
said, where two or more are gathered, there am I.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the personified Yeshua. It's the Christ light. We all have the ability to become Christed beings, which is a whole, healed, complete human. And so when you gather a group where the Christ light begins to shine even brighter, that gets inserted into the planetary grid through these sacred sites. And
Mm.
it becomes a service to the collective, not in an egoic sense. It's just offering yourself as the vessel of this Christ light.
Did you notice that your intuitive skills and your other senses, your third eye, constantly evolves and changes with every visit to these places? Like, what's that been like for you from like a chakra perspective, a third eye perspective?
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. I have definitely felt my intuition being sharpened. I've felt my energy centers being cleansed and realigned. Now we go in and out of that balance, so being
Mm.
cleansed, realigned, and unified for sure. It's kind of an activation at higher and higher levels of consciousness, which, as I say, is
Mm.
ongoing. And the third eye definitely has opened so much, and the heart center, because when you connect even with the people of these ancient cultures who are still there, and they carry the wisdom of the lineage
Oh, yeah.
within them, there's a huge heart opening, this sense of shared human understanding. We're all human and we all want the same things. you know we
Yeah,
want to
primarily.
be safe, we want to be loved, we want to be shown kindness. And so every you realize the true oneness of humanity, and that's a huge heart opening. At the same time that you get the activations of the sacred site that
Mm.
really sharpen your intuition and expand your third eye, because you're receiving so much information. The synchronicities are off the charts. People show up and
Oh,
give you the exact information that you've been asking for, and the messages just, it's like a very accelerated feeling, like, wow, I guess I stepped into the divine flow. The sacred sites help
Yes.
us step into aligned flow in
Yes.
synchrony with the energy of the universe. I mean, that's really powerful. And we can get out of that flow in our daily lives, like I say, because of all the pressures and tasks and, obligations.
Absolutely. Do you find that you've had or experience OBEs, out of body experiences? Like, what are your dreams like?
Mhm.
Do just visiting these places bring that alive in you? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, so I find that my dreams have become very, very vivid. Like we said earlier, ancient memories are unlocked. It's almost
Yeah.
like these codes meaning information. People say light codes. Well, light is information, but it's like these codes that become unlocked within you and all of a sudden flood you with this wisdom, mostly, like you said earlier, of remembering, because
Yes.
we are divine creator beings of infinite potential. We always have been. It's just that, over in this lifetime and whatever other lifetimes, maybe we forgot. Maybe in some lifetimes we didn't forget. And so we're bringing that wisdom into this incarnation. And so, yes, for sure, memories flooding through, like I said, especially in Egypt and the Holy Land, but also in the Maya lands. I have a huge connection with the Mayan wisdom and the sites in the Yucatan in particular,
Mm,
and Palenque in Chiapas. So it's, so much of that wisdom boils down to the same thing, which is
yeah.
unity consciousness, which is there is no separation. And you humans just get in your own way, with
Yeah.
misperceptions, clouded judgments, um, being attached
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
destabilizing memories of the past and worries about the future. But it's
Yeah.
more like what they really do is bring you into the present moment so quickly. And
It
that's
kind of
what,
reminds. Yeah, it kind of reminds me, Dana, like I've talked to so many people that have had NDEs,
mhm.
and it almost reminds me like your travels are almost like NDEs for the living, because they are awakening,
Interesting. Mhm.
right? They are awakening and bringing you closer to God and to consciousness. It's
Yes.
almost like that to me, the way it seems.
That is beautiful, Carol Ann. No one's ever put it that way. And I do agree with you. I haven't thought of it in that way, but the great mystery schools were all about dying,
Yes,
quote, dying in life
yes,
so you can more fully live. So you're constantly
exactly.
dying to an older version of yourself to be reborn into a newer, higher
Yes.
consciousness version of yourself. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah, just
Absolutely.
like the connection to me, it's almost like it's like you're getting an NTE, but in the living light.
Yes.
I love
Absolutely.
that.
I
Yeah.
I love that too. Thank you for making that connection.
Oh, of course. How has your perceptions of death changed with all?
Hmm.
Because everybody at one point feared death, and then as we
Right.
grow into our spirituality, you kind of lose that fear based on a lot of
Right.
conversations that I've had. What's that been like for you? What's your relationship with foregoing your earthly body one day? What does that seem
Wow.
like?
Yes, that's profound. I feel, yes, I think it's a matter of growing older, gaining more wisdom through experience, people our age and older, and where you don't, that fear dissolves. And, when
Mm,
you connect out through your crown, especially in your third eye, and you realize that you are infinite, or you have embodied experiences that there are no boundaries to your body, that
right.
you are pure consciousness. As the Course in Miracles says, we are not bodies in space and time. We are pure consciousness, and the consciousness lives on. So yes, I feel much more comfortable with the concept of, just leaving the physical body. And I say moving on to a new assignment.
Ah, There you go.
Yes.
That's nice.
A
I like
new
that.
assignment. It's like an
A new
adventure.
assignment. Yeah, an
Right.
ethereal assignment.
An ethereal assignment because we are eternal, so I feel that there is nothing to fear. And
Right.
it's funny, you reminded me of, I spoke to someone years ago, and most people have more of a, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe they have more of a fear of losing others
Yes.
versus their own
Good
annihilation.
point.
And so I had this conversation with a colleague, and I said, oh yeah, I feel like, I'm not worried about that process at all for myself, but I don't want to lose others. And she said, oh, I'm
Right.
just the opposite. She said, I have more fear about losing myself than losing others. It's so funny. So it's just
It's true,
different.
though. I agree with that. I think losing others is, picturing
Yeah,
like what their worlds would be like without you in it.
you're
That's
right.
scary. Yeah, to think
Right.
about. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that's interesting. But I do feel that more that you connect with your own divine power and infinite presence, the more you realize is like, you're here and you will always be here, just
Yeah.
in a different form.
Have you been to a sacred site and said, okay, I got what I need to get, and I don't need to revisit this particular place, while
Mm,
others compel you, like Egypt, where you have to
right.
keep going back?
You keep going back. Yes. I have I have felt that about various sacred sites. I feel Egypt, I feel like I'm complete with the Holy Land. Not because it's
Ah,
harder to travel there, but because I felt so complete with that. And I was there twice. Once just I went with my husband on a personal trip, and then I took a group in 2018. And the experiences were so mystical, so
yeah,
profound
yeah.
that I thought, I'm not going back because nothing could ever compare to what I experienced in 2018, which were, like I described earlier, literal miracles, see what we might call miracles. So I feel complete with that. The sacred sites of Avalon, the same thing. I feel complete with that. I know I was there in that lifetime. I went there twice. Again, first, on more for myself, and then I led a group. That said, I am going to be back in Glastonbury at the end of August to give a talk there.
Oh,
And so,
fun.
yes, yes, through Portal to Ascension, and they have a conference there called Ascension Glastonbury that they do every summer. And so I feel complete with those sites, but Egypt, I will keep returning to Egypt for sure.
Yeah.
Machu Picchu in Peru, I was there twice. I'm going back in October because I got an assignment from Spirit that I was to take a group. Now, the other times I went, I was for myself. And I was with other people, but I wasn't leading a group. So I was
Yeah.
really surprised by that assignment because I thought that I was complete with that part of South America.
Yeah.
And also Bolivia. I'm going back to Lake Titicaca, where I was one time before, which is a very powerful sacred site. So who knows what gifts are in store for me there? This taking a group there for the first time, which will be October 22nd to November 1st. But I am very familiar with those sites. Again, I feel that we go and reconnect with various sites again to unlock the memories because we were there before,
Yeah,
retrieving
absolutely.
something of ourselves, little pieces of ourselves that were left there. And so if any of your listeners are interested in that journey, they can email me. They could go to my website and my events page, and on there will be the name and the dates, and it will say, email me at this email, dana@danamicucci.com, for more information, and I'll send you the very detailed itinerary.
Okay, good. Let's bring up your website so we could show
Yeah.
folks. Add to stage. Okay, so here's your
Yeah.
website.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful picture of you, by the way.
Thank you.
So here's your, information, your
Right.
biography on here.
Right.
And of course, we have your books, and I'm sure they can get them on Amazon too, right, Dana?
Yes. Yes. And those links will take them right to Amazon.
Oh,
So
yeah,
my new
yeah.
book, is there on the lower left, just because we didn't have any more space. But that's my new book, The Years of Living Dangerously. There's a link to connect them to Amazon, or they could go directly to Amazon and put the title of the book and my name, and they could buy it directly. But they'll be taken to Amazon from my books page.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
What is this book's focus on, The Year of Living Dangerously? What's the synopsis of that one?
Yes. Well, I wrote that book, Carol Ann, after many years of taking groups to these sacred sites. And I wanted to share my experiences with the pushback, with the what I call S&I, the sabotage, the interference from the anti-light, by taking this work very publicly. And as you say, this happens on this duality plane, and to show people that they're not alone. I wrote it as a supportive, empowering roadmap for other light workers. And then in those chapters, we go into these sacred sites, and I share a lot of that esoteric wisdom, as well as practices and meditations at the end of each chapter. So it's really a multi-layered book, and anyone interested in sacred sites, in light work, in sacred service, planetary missions,
that's the book to read.
Yes, that's that book. And dangerously simply refers to, a lot of the tests and trials and initiations where, and some of them were, like I call them, near extinction events, where I was almost taken out for doing this, which, I always say I'm not special. Other people have experienced this, and there have been more illustrious souls than I on this planet over time who have been taken out for speaking the truth and bringing the light.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I have to say hi. Bonsoir, Libercast. Thank you for popping in today. Okay, so all right. Now, where are your tours and under events?
Under events, yes. So they'll see the Peru journey is below, but the first one is I'm also staying closer to home this summer by taking a group to Mount Teton National Park in Wyoming, which is a huge vortex of light. Oh my gosh. It's the one of the main etheric retreats of the Ascended Masters on this planet. And if you go there, you can feel why. It is so ethereal, so transcendent. So we connect in with the Ascended Masters, everyone from Lord Buddha to Kuan Yin to Master Saint Germain, Master Merlin, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, all of the Babaji, those masters in the seventh dimension who once walked the earth, mastered the lessons of life, and merged with their immortal God presence. And there are elder brothers and sisters to teach us the path of mastery on earth. And I love the Ascended Master teachings and practices. We go to sites around the mountain, and we actually take a pilgrimage to Saint Germain's etheric retreat, actually over the border into Idaho on the last day. So it's a shorter retreat, 3 days, but there's a day getting there, a day coming home. And it's just gorgeous. We're in nature almost the whole time. And we have a wonderful float trip on the Snake River, which is part of it.
Wow, that sounds like something I would love to do. Goodness gracious.
Sure. I have some spots available. So yes, I'd love to have you, Carol Ann, and anyone else listening. That might be more doable, than a bigger international trip.
It might be a good first trip. Like if you've never done it, it might be a good, like, dip your toe in kind of event.
Absolutely. And if you click on that link on that, right under the Wyoming description,
this one,
that link, it will take you to all these pages about the retreat, the itinerary, the images, the lodging, all the information you need. And also the background about why I'm doing this and the Ascended Masters.
Oh, I'm going to have to read that. I'm going to leave it open. That is great. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Let's look at some of your services, Jana.
Yes.
What are you offering us in terms of workshops and services?
Yes. Well, these on this page, the top one is a mentorship that I've done over the years called Divine Life, A Woman's Guide to Your Own True Power, because women especially were asking me, how can I work with you one-on-one versus in a group setting? And so those have been very powerful for people, where I take them through 7 different initiations to reconnect with their own divine power, gain more clarity on their soul's mission and purpose in this lifetime, and of course ignite healing. And there are a lot of magical occurrences that happen on these phone calls. I designed it to happen every other week over 4 months, so it's not a huge time commitment, but you can read more about it by clicking that link if you want to work with me one-on-one. And then the other sessions are also one-on-one, the healing sessions, and you will see my shamanic soul retrievals and spiritual attunement phone calls. The soul retrievals happen in non-ordinary reality, and it's a 2-day process, and people can read about it there and then contact me, and I can send you even more information. But this has been very powerful. It's a spiritual form of healing, where I've been trained in shamanic healing, Carol Ann, over, I don't know, many, many years, and studied with a lot of great teachers. And so why this one's so popular is that spirit, and I'm just the vessel, I'm not the healer. It's God, the healer, as we know. Spirit God working through me, and I'm taken to your past incarnations, which you brought up earlier, past lives, to where some of the greatest soul trauma occurred in your life stream through many, many lifetimes. And I'm shown in great detail what happened, what was going on. And then I've collect all that information, which I'm shown by spirit. I'm in an altered state while I'm doing this. The person's lying down, just resting wherever they are. We're not talking on the phone at that time, but I'm connecting in with them in the quantum field. I find the soul fragments that have fragmented off due to great trauma. I bring them back, reintegrate them into your energy field. And then all of that trauma is dissolved into the light, and any non-beneficial patterns and programs that set in because of that trauma, however far back, it could be millennia, it could be another century, wherever spirit guides me, all those non-beneficial patterns and programs are removed. They're dissolved. It's so because we often go through repeating expressions of patterns and programs that set in due to traumas in previous lifetimes. Then you get your soul fragment or fragments back, which is hugely empowering. And people have reported that they can feel it, that they even feel heavier when these fragments come back. And I thought, well, that makes sense, because the soul fragment would be energy, and there is a weight, right, to the energy.
Freaking-lutely, yeah.
And then
it's so interesting, because I've heard that souls can fragment due to trauma, and that blew me away. I did not know that until like maybe 6 months ago. And that we leave these fragments like back in our reincarnated lives, right?
Right. We leave pieces of ourselves, and all of us humans have been through untold soul trauma. And what happens is the soul fragments off as a self-protective mechanism so we can move forward. We wind up moving forward into all of these successive lifetimes with less and less of our soul essence available to us.
Oh, goodness.
And so bringing these fragments back is really important. And it's so you feel like you're playing with more of a full deck, so to speak, And now I make the decree that the healing and the light/information that comes through the soul retrieval extends throughout all your timelines, past, present, and future. This is so people don't have to keep coming back. However, people do. I have had many clients who've come back for multiple soul retrievals, and one of them had 8. And I said, Diana, I think we're done. So, yeah, that's.
What about spiritual attunement? What do you do during that?
Spiritual attunement is when we have a phone call. Okay, so I want to just finish. The second part of the soul retrieval is we have a phone call the next day where I transmit everything that came through. And that is very equally as healing. Okay, so on the spiritual attunement, we have the phone call. It's a one call for, I think it's 75 minutes. And people will tell me, where they are, what they're dealing with right now, and what they might want to create in their lives, just what they're going through. And then
Yeah.
I tune in and I receive a lot of information from the higher realms, from the ascended masters, from the angelic realm, from directly from spirit God, through my own I am presence. And I bring through all this information that can assist them on their journey and catalyze healing on all levels.
Ah, nice. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I would be interested in definitely one either the shamanic soul or the attunement for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And then
Yes.
you've got sacred journey consultations as well.
I had that on there a while ago, but I'm kind of phasing that out. I guess I
Oh,
should
okay.
remove it. But yes, because I've been doing my own sacred journeys and writing the books, and I find that I'm not really having the time for that. So
And then they can sign up to your newsletter and contact you right here on your contact page,
yes,
right?
absolutely. Sign up for my monthly newsletter, and you'll receive resources for the spiritual seeker and those on the path of mastery, and my upcoming events and inspirational wisdom in those newsletters every
Beautiful.
month.
Beautiful. We have to take advantage of that. So many
Mhm.
of us still are suffering from various traumas, whether they're due to our soul contract or this life. I mean, it could be
Yes.
anything. And that's why I love shadow work too, because that is a
Right.
healing. That is something I take very seriously. And I try myself to do it almost daily, to do some shadow work because it is very, very healing. So, what are you working
Absolutely.
on now? I know you've got these tours coming up and stuff, but
Mhm.
what's in your immediate future, Dana?
So aside from those retreats slash sacred journeys, I'm going to hopefully pick up where I left off on my next novel, which is a sequel to The Third Muse, which, as I mentioned, was about the divine feminine teachings of Mary Magdalene. But it follows my heroine, who is not surprisingly a New York journalist who goes on assignments to various sacred sites. And so this one will be about Egypt, not surprisingly, Carol Ann.
Mm. Sounds like you've got a lot coming up that's exciting. You have
Oh,
a
and
lot going on.
I should also, I totally forgot. If you're in the Northern California area, if you would like to meet in person, I will be at the New Living Expo in San Rafael, California from April 17th to 19th. It's an expo with all kinds of consciousness expo for, living on the new earth. And I'll be speaking there. There'll be other speakers and exhibitors as well. And so I'm excited about that.
Wonderful. Did you ever go on Sasha Stone's podcast, or did you ever hear of him?
Yes, I know of
Yeah.
Sasha Stone. I think he'll be at that expo actually, but I have
Yeah, I
not.
thought so.
Yes, and I've not been on his podcast. But this expo is put on by Portal to Ascension, and yes, so would be a great place to, if you're seeking spiritual community,
Yeah,
be a great
yeah.
place to come and
His work
say
and
hello.
yours seems very aligned, and I think you'd be a great guest on his podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe a good idea for you to reach out to him. I don't know
Okay.
why I just got that
Oh,
message, that little download, that I think I see the two of you collaborating somewhere.
oh, nice. Well, thank
Yeah,
you
I
for
think
that tip. I'm aware of him, but I never thought. What is his podcast called?
New Earth something. I'll email it to you because I get his
Okay.
newsletter.
Oh,
Actually,
great.
I'll forward you his newsletter because
Okay,
I
that's
think I
great.
just got one. Yeah, I'll forward you his newsletter.
Okay. Well,
Heidi
thank you
also
for tuning
said,
in.
"Oh, you're welcome." That Pura Rasa has an amazing meditation for fragmented soul. Didn't know that, Heidi. Yeah, I guess a lot of people are paying attention to this whole fragmented soul thing. It's
Yes.
like I've been seeing it everywhere lately. It's nuts. But I want to thank you so much, Dana. It's always such a joy, and the time flies by when we
It
talk.
flies by, Carol Ann. I love connecting with you. You ask the best questions.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. It's a blessing to know you. It truly is.
Oh,
And I am going to be in touch. of course, for a few reasons. I definitely want to rebook you because we're booking all the way into like May. So
Sure.
I would love to get you at least on the schedule.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we could talk about the Third Muse book or
Oh,
something.
sure. Something
We'll,
different.
we'll
Yes.
absolutely.
That
We
would
will
be
be in
great.
touch, Dana. Thank you
Okay.
so much for today.
Oh, thank you, Carol Ann. It was so much fun, and lots of love to you and to all your viewers. Thanks for listening in.
Yes, thank you, everyone in the chat. We love hearing from you and connecting with you. It's always such a blessing. And I will be in touch, Dana. Much love to you, dear
Okay.
friend.
All right. Thank you, Carol Ann.
Thank you, dear. Bye
Bye.
bye. Well, that was a blast. I love Dana. I truly do. She's such a genuine soul, and her essence vibrates right through the screen, as I'm sure it has for all of you. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. You've been listening to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, which is 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. So as we come to a close of this blessed conversation, learned so much from Dana. It's really a gift. We get to see what lingers in the understanding that sacred sites are not just distant relics of the past. They are living invitations, still asking us to remember who we are, how we deeply can connect to the earth and what's beneath our feet. So, Dana, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your courage to explore, which truly you are a master of, and your devotion to listening to the land. Your work leaves us with a deeper sense of reverence. It truly does. And perhaps a quiet call to walk the world a little more awake. So thank you all so much. I will see each and every one of you next Wednesday. Have a blessed and wonderful weekend. Everyone in the chat, love you all dearly. Have a good one. I will see you soon. Bye-bye, guys.